are back once again with another edition of the Patriots Only Please podcast. As usual, I am your tour guide, Jeff C.
Mr. Soley.
Absolutely, as always. Cool. It's good to see you again. As always, we're getting into kind of sort of the home stretch. What is it? We got about 10 days, 9 days. We're getting into the single-digit days. Finally, this thing that felt like it's taken forever. I mean,
right.
Not only have we been waiting this entire election cycle, but we've kind of been waiting since 2020. So this is just a very long time coming, and the initial numbers are starting to look good. Early day, the first early voting for Nevada started a week ago today. We're recording this on a Saturday. Last Saturday was the first day of early voting. I certainly took advantage of that.
Right.
My wife did as well. Voted for the very first time as a citizen.
Yay!
Yes, so
congratulations, man.
Yep, so it was cool, and she made the right choice as well, thankfully, or else there would have been some disturbance in the home.
Yes.
But yeah, so as always, man, I want to get your take on where you think things are going, and ultimately, is anybody really undecided at this point? I mean, everybody's really trying to hit. They're making their last ditch attempts. They're reaching out to their final messaging to the electorate. Trump was just on the Joe Rogan podcast finally last night. And this is something, by the way, I called this. I told my wife this. I may have even said this to you. I said, if and when Trump goes on Rogan, it's going to be towards the end of the campaign so he can maximize that final push to the people. And by sheer numbers, I think it's already hit the 20 million mark. But anyway, there's a
way
ton
over.
Of stuff to catch up on. Yeah, way over. And
it's breaking the internet.
Absolutely. In fact, I was just trying to, I'm an hour 13 into it, and I still have, another hour, 2 hours or so to go. So I got a lot more homework to do. But anyway, I'm going to give you the floor. Go ahead and give me your assessment of the week overall and where you think this is going to launch into the final days of the campaign.
What looks great. It looks really good for Trump. Like we were talking before we started the episode about how in 2016 and in 2020, Trump was down. He was down nationally. He was down in the swing states to Hillary and to Joe Biden, respectfully. And this time around, right now, he's neck and neck with Kamala everywhere nationally. He's ahead in some of the swing states, and that's not good for her. I mean, I think they realize without going into this thing with a big lead, and with Trump having this kind of momentum, they're probably going to lose the presidency. He's probably going to win the presidency. I think their goal, this is my personal opinion, I think their goal is to hang on to the House. I'm sorry, to hang on to the Senate. And that's probably the best that they can hope for at this point. Sure. The bait and switch this late in the game, not having a primary, even moderate Democrats are like, this is the result when you give us no option but Joe Biden and then yank him out. I mean, it's not. Listen, let me step back for a second. We haven't won yet, and Trump might not win. So we have to make sure he does win. Register, vote early, vote now, vote everywhere that you can, whatever state you're watching this from in the United States. But I mean, it's looking, again, in the last two election cycles at this point, Trump was behind. He gives an example on the Joe Rogan episode from just yesterday, how in Wisconsin, his own polling experts had him down 17 points in Wisconsin. And then he won Wisconsin. He's like, how could I have been down 17? You know what I mean? And they made a really good point. And this is something that the viewers should keep in mind too. He said, because the polling companies, the major ones in the country, think about this. If they tell a potential of voters, someone's down 17 points and that's your candidate, like, he can't win, I'm just going to stay home and not vote. It's almost a form of voter suppression if you think about it, right? Yeah. So again, by reporting, hopefully honestly saying that they're neck and neck, that gives both Democrats and Republicans a reason to get out there and friggin' vote, man. It's neck and neck, So that's bad for her. He's been the president before. We know all the awful things they're saying about him right now, the Hitler stuff, the sitting president of the United States a couple of days ago said, we need to put him in jail. He said those words.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Joe Biden said, we got to get this. We got to put this guy behind bars. I mean, again, if you're a moderate Democrat, that's hard to swallow. That's really, really hard to swallow. So I think a lot of Democrats are going to vote for Trump. I think a lot of Democrats are going to sit this one out. I
Mhm.
don't think Kamala is. I think the shine's worn off. They realize she's not a real candidate. She's a last ditch effort to hang on to something. With even Obama and all the whole DNC machine behind her, it's like she just can't put him over the finish line because she has nothing to say,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she
And
contradicts herself. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, well, and all everything you're saying is absolutely true, and I think that there are a growing number of people that realize this. I also still hold to the belief that there are plenty of people who, blue no matter who,
Yep.
as long as it's not Trump, they don't care. I'd like
Right.
to think that there aren't as many of those people, though. I think that there are some, look, sensible Democrats, more moderate, left-leaning people who are like exactly like you said. They switched out the candidate at the last minute. There was no primary. We really didn't get much of a choice. So hopefully they're either going to just not vote and they'll just sit this one out. I don't think too many of them will cross over. Although another big piece of news over the week, Tulsi Gabbard finally officially pledged her allegiance to the Republican Party. So you are seeing a lot of, well, not a lot, but you are seeing a certain element of that happening on the left, them coming over officially,
Right.
because the alliances with RFK and all that stuff.
Well,
I don't know
yeah,
how
and
influential.
I'm glad you mentioned the alliance, because what's the alliance on the left? Kamala Harris, far left. Tim Walz, even farther to the left. I mean,
Sure.
Joe Rogan mentioned in the podcast yesterday with Donald Trump. Seriously, she's talking to their people about Kamala coming on his show before November 5th, but they're having
Hmm.
scheduling conflicts. I don't think it's
Of
going to
course.
happen. I don't
No.
think there's no way she can handle a 3 hour long form anything without a teleprompter, without answers in front of her. They're probably going to tell if completely my opinion, just speculation. But they're going to give Rogan a list of things he can't talk about. He's going to say, "F you, it's my show. I can do whatever I want." She
Yeah.
won't go anywhere near. I think the Fox interview showed her what can happen when she's not talking to people who will do everything she wants them to do, and only fact check. I guess no one, you know. But
Yeah.
he won't play by her rules. And how could it benefit her to go on a show like that?
Hmm.
We
Absolutely.
just
It's
saw
not going
her.
to change. It's not going to change anybody's opinion, especially in his audience, because a lot of his audience tends to be, younger male.
Well, that's it.
Lately his audience attracts more of
Well,
our
we
type of
saw her
people.
crash and burn with Brett, with on the Fox network, and
Yeah.
we saw her crash and burn on CNN with Anderson Cooper. She couldn't
Yeah.
give him a straight answer for 40 minutes. Nothing. She didn't
And
answer one
60 Minutes
question.
and The View and every other softball interview that she's been given. So she clearly wouldn't be able to hold her own for 3 hours with Joe Rogan in a
No.
completely unscripted, unedited interview. So yeah, again, look, things are really trending in the right direction, at least, as far as we're concerned. Of
Right.
course, anything is possible because you still have a couple
Sure.
of states, or at least there's one state, I can't remember exactly which one it was, but 11,000 or something like that voters, illegal voters are still, they're not allowed to be purged from the voter rolls. So that clearly, to me, this close to the election is just a blatant, like, this is election interference. You're clearly
Right.
trying to sway the election in a certain direction. So I mean, what do you say about that?
Well, I say that as we talked about again before we started the episode, the RNC is on offensive this year. Laura Trump has
Mhm.
got lawyers placed in every key district in the country, people boots on the ground. This will be a lawsuit. What you just said, that'll be contested in court. That won't be allowed to
Sure.
stand. So they'll fight that, then as they should, and they'll fight all the shenanigans as they should. But they're ready for them. They're ready
So
for
what
them.
would the
You know what I mean?
strategy be then for something like that? What's the point of even using that as a strategy, other than I think maybe just buying some time while they was, well, see, this is why we can't count the votes on election night. This is why it's going to take an extra week, because they got to buy themselves time, because they know
I
that
guess.
a ruling like that's going to be challenged at the Supreme Court level, but it's going to buy them time. So anybody that thinks that this election is going to be over and decided when you wake up in the morning on November 6th has got another thing coming, from
Yeah,
what
no, I
I've
agree with you. I
personally.
agree with you, but that's all the more reason to overwhelm the system, make it too big to rig. Vote, ask your friends to vote, ask your colleagues to vote, reach out to people, check in with people you haven't checked in with in a while, and make sure that they vote. And just don't let up. You know what I mean? And like, we're doing this DIY podcast to get the word out. I mean, I've never seen this kind of groundswell support ever for a political candidate. Trump really has created a movement. I don't care what the Democrats say. He's not part of the machine. He's got his own
Mhm.
machine, and we're part of that machine. Be a part of that machine too, and vote for him. Help get the word out, and just get ready for the shenanigans. It's going to be a weird holiday season. because this might drag into December for all we know. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
this is
Wouldn't
going
be
to drag
surprised.
into January.
But
Absolutely.
but if they know they can't win, and if the numbers are crazy in Trump's favor, it's going to be really hard to stretch it out that long.
Yeah, that's another thing that seems to be trending in our direction as well. The early voting numbers, or at least the numbers that are coming back from
Everywhere.
Nevada, Clark County, everywhere, right? They're definitely favoring Trump. And I think that's because a lot of the pundits, whereas before in the last election, our side was very, very cautious about voting early, doing mail-in votes, all that kind of stuff. But I think this time around, we're going to try to beat them at their own game, right? We're going to show up. We're going to show up early. We're going to show up in droves. And look, there's even some talk. I doubt how real this would be. I doubt this could even happen. But wouldn't it be great if, hey, he's got enough votes, early votes, to push him over before election day? I doubt that will happen. But I mean, the idea is that you flood the system with as many legitimate votes as possible, so where they don't even have time to drum up that many. Because if you think about it, he only lost by a handful of votes, relatively speaking, like in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, a pretty small margin. So they can cook those up in the middle of the night, but it's going to be a lot harder to cook up millions of but which is exactly what the illegal immigration problem is about.
Right, but again, that'll be contested.
How many of those people are going to vote?
That'll be contested in court. And maybe that's exactly what Trump was put on this earth to do, is to put an end to that for now, win the presidency, straighten that out in his 4-year term if he wins, because we won't have a country if this continues, man. We can't allow the Democrats to ship in 30 million new voters. I mean, that's crazy. So it really is. There's a lot at stake, and dude. And again, this is something that Trump says in the interview in the podcast with Joe Rogan. Kamala was taking days off. And Trump hasn't taken a day off in 56 days. 56 days of not an hour off. 56 days of multiple state events, speaking, interviews, podcasts, phone calls, nonstop. Kamala's taking every other day off. She's doing one rally a day max and taking days off. That's not. I don't think. I mean, again, pure speculation on my part, but I can't see that as a winning strategy. There's no COVID to blame. That was Joe Biden's excuse in 2020. He hid in the basement. There's no basement. There's no COVID. She's just not prepared to talk to people very much because she doesn't have anything to talk about. The last 3.5 years have been terrible for the American economy, for average taxpayers. We all know that. She can't run on that. Can't endless wars. I mean, we can't run on that. Can't foreign policy, domestic policy, can't run on those things. At this point, as we're seeing, it's cheap shots against Trump's character, and he's unhinged. He's what are they saying? He's unstable, unhinged. Your boss has dementia. Joe Biden has dementia. No one even takes him seriously anymore. It's weird. He's still the president, but he's a bumbling, stumbling, almost difficult to understand 82-year-old out to pasture president. I mean, it's very weird. It's like, just think for a second, if you're on the DNC and you're one of their pollsters or one of their main drivers. I mean, they have to be in a panic. The sitting president's no help at all, right? So he can't help at all. Everyone's tired of Barack Obama. I know I am. And I know a lot of African American men are tired of him telling them what to do and what to think.
Him chastising them the other week, that backfired completely.
Yeah, let's hang out in one of your 3 mansions. You'll talk about it there, Barack. How about that, Rich? So I mean, I don't see I don't see the October surprise. What was it supposed to be?
I think it was supposed to be Trump is Hitler Part 27.
Wasn't there supposed to be some? Well, didn't the Obama appointed judge agree to unseal one of Jack Smith's things, and that was supposed to be a big deal?
Yeah, and
has that happened? Has that happened yet? I'm sorry, has that happened yet?
Who knows? And I don't think, again, nothing that's going to happen on either side is going to sway anybody at this point. If they try to unleash another lawsuit, no Trump supporters are going to go, oh my God, this is the one that's finally, this is enough. I just can't vote for the guy. Nothing's going to push anybody over the edge. And they're going to try to pull out another Russian collusion thing, oh my goodness, well, we think that, maybe Elon might be talking with Putin. It's like,
Right.
well, first of all, Elon is still very much a private citizen and is not, officially connected to the campaign. He's endorsed Trump, but regardless. So, I mean, so that's that's a nothing burger there as well. So they're going to keep grasping at straws. And I think that their supporters are going to, those with TDS, massive TDS. We know several people in common that suffer from that particular affliction.
Sure. Of
Nothing's going to change their mind. And at this point, I
course.
really don't care, as long as we have the numbers on our side and it seems to be going in that direction. Now, we have to keep that momentum going. The early voting has to
Yes.
continue. It has to
Yes.
continue all the way through the election and then through the election. So it has to be overwhelming from basically now until the polls close on the 5th in every
Yes.
state. Like, you
Yes.
cannot take your foot off the gas at
Nope.
all.
Nope.
So, I mean, that's what we're up against. We're up against we're up against an entire system that doesn't really care about the quality of their candidates, nor do they
No.
care about the policy, because
No.
they just want power and they
Yep.
want to get rid of this guy at all costs, and it doesn't really matter. And I think that their followers at this point, if you've really been following the campaign, regardless of what you think about Trump and your personal feelings towards him, and his personality, you can't be honest with yourself and say that I'm better off now than I was 4 years ago, and therefore I'm going to legitimately cast my vote for Kamala Harris. If you're casting your vote for Kamala at this point, it's because you have TDS and you just want anybody but Trump. And that's it. And I've
That's
even
exactly
seen
it.
that much. I've seen that much online when people, Kamala supporters, they have no substance. They can't really argue on any substance. It's just all this emotional babble and orange man bad.
Well,
That's
it's
it.
also a lot of it's also a lot of misinformation. I mean, Kamala's still doing the Charleston lie, the Project 2025. She's still saying
Mhm.
these things and not getting fact checked by the mainstream media. We know we know those things aren't true. So the left is allowed to lie, and the right gets fact checked on everything. So average people see that
Yeah.
too and go, I actually watched that whole clip, and Trump never, good people on both sides, not at all. And then the very next thing he said was, and by the way, I completely don't support white supremacy, white supremacists. I don't support any of that stuff. They just cut that part out. So I can't imagine being this guy going through this for 10 years and being in another election where where everyone's against. I mean, the media's against him, Hollywood's against him, DC is against him, a lot of rhinos are against him, but he's got
Mhm.
support of the American people,
Yep.
patriots, and a lot of let's not forget, it is a thing too. Disgruntled Democrats exist. I know a bunch of those folks too who are like,
Mhm.
Joe Biden was a nightmare and she's worse, but I still hate Trump. But my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. Hopefully they stay home and sit on their hands,
Mhm.
because Kamala's not better. She's not a better option. She's not an
No.
option. She is an extension of Joe Biden's policies. Obama will keep running things via her. It'll keep being tax and spend, open borders, endless wars. I mean, it's ironic. It's very, very ironic, but the left has become the party of censorship, war, big pharma, big tech, big everything,
Mhm.
and invading our privacy, talking about gun stuff, First and Second Amendment off. I mean, it's really weird watching the left become. I mean, if you want to be a part of the resistance now, Republicans are the way to go. I mean, I'm
Yep.
sorry, we're the resistance. We are.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy how things have completely flipped?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, and never more so indicative than when again we've brought this up on previous episodes about how somehow the left thinks that the support by people like the Cheneys and the Bushes and the Romneys and the old school Republicans, like that's some sort of a flex. Like, really? Okay, well, good. The current right rejects those people. We've rejected them for decades. We're good. Let them be the new face of the Democratic Party, and we'll take Tulsi. We'll take RFK. We'll take those guys all day long. You can keep the
100%.
warmongers.
Well, 100%. And by the way, Liz Cheney lost by 40 points in Montana. She lost by 40 points in her own state. So
Yeah.
she's not welcome in the Republican Party anymore. And her last name means nothing to people who were born after 1990. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, honestly. So, like, and also, and this is not said enough, Jeff. I mean this a lot. they have so much to say about Trump, about his age, about his, all this stuff. But look at the DNC. Look at who runs the Democratic Party. It's really, really rich old white people.
Yeah. And
Chuck
Barack Obama.
Schumer.
And
Oh
Barack
yeah,
Obama. Yeah.
who's half white.
Yeah.
He never talks about that, but he is. Nancy Pelosi. I mean, these people are 40, 50-year veterans, rich elites. I mean, it's
Sure.
not the party of the people, guys. It's not the party of the middle class at all. And saying that in a 3-second ad when you're running for president, and then your actual 3.5 years, Kamala's record is showing how you've just dug in your heels and gouged the middle class.
Yeah.
I mean, not people do vote with their pocketbooks. Even people that are casual bystanders to politics still vote with their pocketbooks. And they're
Sure.
going to either, if they have TDS, they're either going to stay home or not vote. But I mean, how can you vote for 4 more years of this? If you want to put your
Well,
kid through
that's
college, if you want to buy a
yeah.
house, if you want to get out of debt, you
Yep.
cannot vote for 4 more years if you want those things in your life, which I hope you do.
Yeah. And that's why it's been so nice watching, especially, there's a lot of African-American conservatives, coming on board, Asian American conservatives, coming on board. And it's
Latinos.
just been Latinos. It's been great seeing that and seeing how outspoken they are, especially in light of, the tongue lashing that Obama, the talking down he gave to his, quote unquote constituents, his
Yeah.
people. And they
Yeah.
just completely, are you serious? Like, really?
Yeah, they flipped them.
Yeah.
They symbolically flipped him off, basically. Like,
Yeah.
don't tell us what to think, man. And by the way, in terms of vice president picks, I think JD Vance is doing a hell of a better job than Tim Walz is doing for Kamala. I don't know what
1000%.
Tim Walz. I don't know what Tim Walz brings to that party, that ticket, except way farther to the left, more failure, in a state where everything Kamala says she wants has done. He's already codified into law. Illegal immigration. Yeah. They get everything for free. Tampons in the men's bathrooms. Men can compete against women in sports. The BL. I mean, it's a vision for America that no one shares except people on the very, very far left. How does that help her move to the center? I mean, I thought the plan was, at least in the general election, you move to the center to win the election. She's saying things like now she's for frack, but her vice president is against everything. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, absolutely.
JD Vance and Trump are dead set on their vision for America together. And this is Kamala. I'm sorry, this is Kamala. I can't do the left. He's way farther to the left than she is.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he brings her farther away from the center. How does that help her win? How does that help her win the presidency?
For the last 2 election cycles now, so the last 2020 and now this one, the only thing they've run on is, we're not Trump. We're not Trump. Joe Biden didn't have to run on anything else because COVID, conveniently allowed him to just stay in his basement. So, but I'm not Trump. I'm not Trump. And then even then, I mean, let's be honest, the results are still dubious to this day. But hey, we're now, this is a new chapter. But Kamala and Tim Walz, they're just running on the fact that they're not Trump. That's the only. That's all they've got. So I don't think, to your point, since there is no COVID, there is no basement, how much longer can you run on that? You can't.
I don't think. I think that's losing its shine as well, as is Kamala. Yeah. And something that very telling that Rogan says in the interview with Trump, he says he did talk to Kamala in the process of trying to book her on the show. He's talking to her people and talking to her, and she admitted to Joe Rogan. He said this on the podcast. So whatever that means, the veracity of it, whatever. But he said, and I quote, Kamala told me she was sleep deprived when she selected Tim Walz to be her vice president, end quote.
Wow. I haven't gotten that far. You haven't gotten that far.
You go when you watch the podcast, like bookmark that, because she told Rogan, yeah, I was sleep deprived when I confirmed Tim Walz. I can't, even if that's true, how dumb do you think people are? I mean, how I don't know. Well, like, that is embarrassingly stupid.
They think their constituency is so dumb that all they care, and I'm a broken record about this, but all they care about is orange man bad. They're not Trump, anyone but Trump, joyful brown vagina, and abortion. And that's it. That's it. And hopefully from what I'm seeing, from what I'm feeling, from what I'm, kind of taking in from our vantage point, is that there's not enough people to pull off that kind of a win on their side, which is why they have to pad it with illegal immigrants, which is why, oh, interestingly enough, no, we're against voter ID. I mean, look, everything that they're doing just points to voter suppression, and yet they're going to turn it back around on us. But really, you're the ones that are legitimately not allowing states to get rid of voter rolls that have proven non-registered and/or illegal immigrants. It's a fact that you're not allowing voter ID. Why is that? Why in any other country? Elon just posted a graphic the other day, just yesterday on X, about these are the countries that require voter identification. Almost all of them, with the exception of, I think I didn't see like Iran on there, but everyone else, all voter ID required. How come? So you got to wonder, well, I mean, the ones that don't want that, why do they not want that? Well, because it's easier to cheat. How is that not so fucking, how is that not obvious? How is that not obvious? I guess it's okay because, oh, well, look, we need to, the ends justify the means. As long as we're not going to elect Hitler part 2, then we can lie, cheat, steal, do whatever we want. And then the second the election is called in Trump's favor, we're going to tie this up for months. We're going to do everything we can. But all of a sudden, it's okay. It's okay if the left argues the results of the election. That's okay. But if we bring anything up, like if we bring up facts like voter suppression, no voter ID, you guys have been, the illegal immigration, that somehow is this unbelievable, crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. When we have years of evidence and proof of that. But what are they going to say? How are they going to blame a cheat on the right? I don't see how that can happen. But they're going to try.
Yeah, they're going to try. I don't see how it can happen. I think they're scrambling. I think they realize Kamala was the only choice, but not strong enough to beat Trump. I mean, dude, Trump. Let's face it. In Trump's 10 years, he became president. He knocked out Hillary Clinton. He knocked out Joe Biden. Hopefully he's gonna knock out Kamala Harris and that whole woke movement that she champions and reset the country. I mean, we need that because everything you're saying is absolutely true. And if you're a hardworking American taxpayer, it's enough already. It's enough of taking advantage of us. And then that's exactly what they're doing. And I think that people, even with TDS, realize 4 more years of this can't be good for my family.
Yeah. I'm hoping to see a 1972, 1984 style landslide,
and it's funny you say that. I mean, because, the Al White dinner, the big Catholic thing in New York City, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, no shows. The last Democrat contender to miss that was Walter Mondale. He lost 49 states. So not saying that's going to be a repeat, but it was embarrassing to not have I mean, why didn't Joe Biden go? He's the sitting president. He's not on tour. He's not doing anything. Literally not doing anything because he realized he had nothing to benefit from it. He was going to get lambasted by everybody because he's barely awake. And it was probably past his bed. It was probably past his bedtime. And I think he started at 9:00 in New York, so that's way too late for him. But I mean, it's very telling that Chuck Schumer is sitting right there next to the podium where everyone's speaking, and they kept saying, "Where's Kamala's not coming, Joe Biden's not coming," and Chuck Schumer's just like, it is kind of weird. You know what I mean? Yeah, and this is a blue state. I mean, and Governor Hochul was there, Mayor Adams was there. No, the Democrats who run the executive office, who run the White House, couldn't be bothered to show up. It's like, you always show up to this thing. That's what you guys do. Not this year. It's all very telling. You know what I mean?
Sure. And maybe because, maybe somehow they think that they've got it in the bag, that they don't necessarily need that segment of the vote. But I'm hoping that we are victorious and their campaign just comes crashing down. And you look, and even assuming Trump takes the win, assuming there's no, hugely drawn out,
shenanigans,
the election, shenanigans, all that, assuming all of it happens as smoothly as possible, like you said, even if they get him in, they're going to try to discredit him. They're going to try to probably assassinate him a few times while he's in there. They're going to block every piece of legislation. He's basically going to have to rule like a king, and do everything almost through executive order, because it's going to be impossible to push anything through Congress with a divided Congress.
That's what Joe Biden did. I mean, on his first day, he rescinded 96 of Trump's executive orders with his own. So I think Trump will probably sit there publicly with the mainstream, with all the mainstream media. Again, this is conjecture, but and go, I'm going to undo everything he did because look at the state we're in, And it doesn't bother. You're right about the assassination attempts. It's very telling that these two assassination attempts were not used by the left for a reason to talk about gun control. Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
No big, huge gun control push because shooting at the president. Well, it's the wrong president, so it's okay with us.
That's okay. Yeah,
terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on them. History will judge them harshly for that. All that stuff. But I think I think Trump's team knows all this stuff. And the one thing that Trump hammers in during his talk with Joe Rogan, which great question that Rogan asked at the near the beginning of the podcast, was, what would you do differently this time, and what do you regret you didn't do? And Trump just says, listen, man, I didn't spend any time in D.C. I was a New York guy. I didn't know the swamp. I didn't know the main players. I took a lot of recommendations from people I trusted. Most of them worked out. Some of them didn't. This time I'm going in with I know exactly who I'm going to appoint for every single post. And I think the corollary of that is he's going to have a security team like no one's ever seen before. He's going to be circled up 24/7 by just military guards, mirrors, bulletproof, everything. He needs to be. He needs to be.
Yeah, he knows that, absolutely. So,
and we can afford it, and we can afford that protection. If we can give Ukraine $300 billion, we can afford to have the president secured every time he's in public.
Of course we can, and that's another thing that's going to stop too. Is just a blank check that's going to Ukraine. Everybody knows that the party's going to be over once he gets in. So now, look, I mean, we've been going here for a little over 32 minutes at this point. So I guess in closing this time around, what do you think this means? I mean, look, anything can happen. We still have, we're still a little shy of, little over a week left before Election Day. Anything is possible. I don't see Kamala's camp doing anything to drastically turn that ship around. Yet the polls are still showing that she's neck and neck, which is interesting because in all the swing states, it's showing Trump leading. So how are they getting this neck and neck, or Kamala's still ahead? I guess if they're not,
because by saying again to quote what I said earlier in this episode, quoting what Trump said in his podcast with Rogan yesterday. The polling companies, if you're the DNC and you hire your polling companies, they want the electorate to think it's close, so their vote matters. So they're neck and neck. So Democrats don't forget to show up. They don't think that Kamala's got it in the bag. I think that's what's going on there. And I also think this, and this is a big. It just came to me while you were talking. In 2020. Trump was the sitting president. COVID was raging the world, and it was whatever it was. And Biden pretty much just had to hang out in his basement and win. This time, Biden's a lame duck. He has dementia. He can't really talk. No one really takes him seriously anymore. The media has stopped covering him. Kamala, in other words, whatever shenanigans are going to happen, Kamala's not a strong enough speaker to be the face of it, to be the voice of it. She's just not smart enough. She's not persuasive enough. So the mainstream media has got to go into overdrive. Obama's going to be pretty much resurface as the face and voice of the party, but it can't be Kamala because she's not. No one takes her seriously enough. You know what I mean? So I think all that leads to them accepting that Trump's probably going to win because she's not. No one likes her enough to listen to her lie about election interference. Knowing that she's throwing the border open, knowing that she defends defunding the police, knowing her record, having videos of her saying these things, it's like she's not. So she's exactly the wrong candidate to be the face of defending the DNC in the face of voter interference on a national level. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, actually. So look, all of this remains to be seen. I mean, we can sit here from our armchair and and try to, prognosticate as much as possible, as much as the next pundit on YouTube as well.
Right.
But I think, for those of us like you and I and others out there that follow this, that follow not just the news and the podcast, but also follow the electoral maps and follow, the betting markets, poly market, Trump is in where they're putting their money where their mouth is. He's up.
He's way ahead. He's way ahead
way
there.
ahead. So,
Yeah.
which I think is a lot more telling than any really biased, poll anyway. So
Right.
a lot of things to consider. So I guess just sort of wrapping up, I mean, as always, go out and vote. If you have not registered, if there's still time to register, get registered. You have to be registered to, you don't necessarily have to be registered a Republican to vote for Trump. If you still in your heart of hearts still want, for whatever reason, to align with the Democratic Party, maybe you still have hope for the future, go right ahead. But we do encourage you to at least vote for Donald Trump to get into, and look, I mean, and take a serious look at your Republican candidates for Congress and Senate as well.
How about this? I mean, how about this? Think about what's right for the country.
Well, absolutely.
We cannot. You can, if you're honest with yourselves and your family, you can't want endless wars. You can't want an open border. You can't want our tax dollars, our hard-earned tax dollars, being spent on not making America better. Where's the Build Back Better thing? What got Build Back Better? Nothing. So it's like everything they told us. Ukraine did. And by the way, we're spending $300 billion defending their border, not our own. I mean, it's just, it's idiocy at this point. It's ridiculousness. So just look at what the Democrats have actually done. What they said they were going to do, and where we are 4 years later. We're way, way, way worse. Enough already. Let's hit reset. Let's get Trump in there, and let's make America great again.
Amen. And on that note, we appreciate anybody who might be watching us. As always, please like and subscribe and follow at Patriots Only, please. And if you are so inclined to join our mailing list and find out when our next episode is going to happen, we encourage you to head over to patriotsonlyplease.com. At some point, we'll probably have some swag and some merch and some, the assless chaps, the whole thing. We'll come up with some interesting giveaways. Some giveaways and some cool swag for you to wear proudly. Yeah. And until then, as we say, keep trumping and onwards to victory. All right. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you as always, sir. Bye for now.
Thanks, Jeff.